It is noon, and I'm told that we have the pleasure of having Sylvia Earle give us our next keynote address. Hello, Sylvia. It's so fantastic to see you. Sylvia Earle, also known as Her Deepness, is president and chairman of Mission Blue and the Sylvia Earle Alliance, and a National Geographic Society Explorer in Residence. She's also considered to be a living legend by the US Library of Congress and received the first Hero for the Planet award by Time magazine. She's an oceanographer, an explorer, an author, and a lecturer that has experience as a field research scientist, a government official, and director for several corporate and nonprofit organizations. She has visited the Mesoamerican Reef on many occasions in her search for hope spots, including the first scientific expedition that we organized in the Healthy Reefs Initiative to the Swan Islands of Honduras, where we got to enjoy a week on the boat with Sylvia diving. So thank you all. Sylvia, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Melanie, for that generous introduction. I think for me, what you're representing here could not be more timely nor more urgent. You know, I know, a growing number of people realize that the ocean is in trouble. Not everybody gets it though. Knowing that if the ocean is in trouble, we're in trouble. There is so much bad news around, but the good news is that we understand we've got problems and that there is an urgency about trying to address what to do. Increasingly, the evidence is here that protecting what remains of the naturally intact wild systems is vital to restoring health to the planet. You know, I've been splashing around in the ocean since the 1950s, since before most of you were born. That's good news and bad news for me. You know, it means that, you know, I've been a witness to extraordinary changes. I've seen a planet when it was a very different place from what it is today. Most coral reefs around the world were in pretty good shape in the 1950s. But by the 1980s, there was evidence that what we're putting into the ocean, what we're taking out of the ocean, what we're putting into the atmosphere, altering the nature of climate, altering the nature of nature, that our impact is really affecting the natural functioning of the planet. So I've been a witness to this, but I've also been a witness to greater knowledge than ever before in the history of humankind. So I think the good news is that as 21st century human beings, all of us are armed with that most important element of what makes us human, and that's knowledge. That we've been gathering information since the beginning of humankind, passing it along one generation to the next. I think the biggest discovery of the 20th century, including all this vast new insight about what Earth looks like from space, what life exists in the deepest parts of the ocean, about the genetic makeup of life, so much, but the magnitude of our ignorance and how much more we need to understand is upon us. But one thing is clear: we have to save the natural systems that make Earth habitable. I mean, every day I pick up a copy of one journal or one book or one source of information or another that is enabling us humans to see how everything connects to everything else. And that destroying the fabric of life, destroying the connections that have taken 4.5 billion years to put together, that we have ripped apart in about 4.5 decades using technologies to find, capture wildlife in the ocean and market wildlife on a scale that is unprecedented, and true to on the land with our ability to find the last great stands of forests and turn them into board feet of lumber. It's costing us in ways that we didn't know, could not know when I was a child, but now we know. And what you're doing with coral reefs, understanding the connections that affect planetary chemistry, that affect the carbon cycle, that affect the oxygen cycle, that make Earth habitable, it's just so important. So in the few minutes that I have to meet with you and to set, provide my perspective, it's just to say thank you and to encourage you to keep on in spite of the magnitude of the challenges that you face, that all of us face in trying to restore health to a system, the ocean, that is in serious trouble. The best chance we have is to do exactly what those of you involved with restoring health to the reefs, and to inspire others around the world to have the kind of success that you're beginning to enjoy right there. There's so many who say that we might as well give up because it's too late. You look at the diseases that are now infecting the coral reefs in the Caribbean and elsewhere in the world, and it appears to be unstoppable. But if you give up, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that we won't do what it takes to take what hope there is and go from decline to recovery. I see a lot of hope in the efforts that people are making to grow corals, to replant them where they've been lost. I see efforts like just last week, I met with people in Miami who are working with artists and scientists to try to tap into a new, powerful group of voices to restore a system of reefs along the Miami Beach shoreline. They're called Reefline. There's a downside to putting artificial reefs in place. You don't know what other creatures are being compromised when you put something new into the ocean, whether it's a shipwreck that is put there with a goal of restoring a reef, or as the Reefline project anticipates, trying to put coral system friendly structures in place, and to engage the artists of the region and around the world to dive in and help celebrate restoring coral reefs to that part of the system. But the most important thing I think that we can do is to identify those areas that are still in good shape, and to realize the connection between reefs, mangroves, seagrass meadows, and the deep sea that is typically not far away from where coral reefs, the healthiest coral reefs, are prospering. And to realize that all of it connects to everything else, that there is no way you can put a fence around any part of the ocean or any part of the planet, if you will, and expect that it can prosper if you don't recognize that the connections to the air above, to the land, to the deep sea, but doing everything that we can to take the pressure off these special places. I mean, it's been demonstrated time and again. The coral reef is not just about the coral. It's coral structures are like buildings in a city. And yes, they are really important to put coral back, restore coral, protect the coral. But if you don't protect the fish, if you don't protect the lobsters, if you don't protect the quality of the water, success will not be possible. Only where you really understand that a reef is connected to everything else. And the goal of restoring health to a coral reef so you can have more lobsters to kill, more fish to take. I guess it's a marketing concept that gets traction in some quarters, but the reality is that the coral reefs need parrotfish, they need grouper, they need the sharks, they need intact systems. And recognizing that on the land, we don't tend to protect forests, so we have more songbirds to kill, or more eagles and owls to take away. The justification for protecting coral reefs means that we have to protect intact coral reefs with all of the elements in place. And to make that clear, that it's healthy reefs, healthy planet, healthy humans, you're absolutely on the right track with your messages. And I will take every opportunity that I can with the influence, the connections that I have to celebrate and lift up what you're doing for the Mesoamerican reefs, because it offers hope for what people are doing elsewhere, whether it's with seagrasses or mangroves or restoring health to sharks. This is a moment in time when, as never before, we're armed with knowledge. We know what to do. And it's so encouraging to see you doing the right things and to see the consequences of appropriate strategies. We just have to amp it up. And I will do whatever I can to do exactly that, to spread to the world beyond. We need to do more of exactly what you are doing, looking at the problems, finding solutions, acting on those solutions, engaging the people in the regions, in the areas, because it's not just their livelihoods, it's their very lives, like the lives of people everywhere currently on the line because of the decline of the natural systems that make Earth a special place in the universe. So I will tune into the rest of this meeting as much as I can. I'm actually catching a flight soon to take off to a part of the Mesoamerican system in the Caribbean to meet with another group of people who, like you, are really committed to taking what we know and not just sitting around talking about what are we going to do, wringing our hands with the magnitude of the problems, but saying, okay, we have answers. Let's get with it. And please recognize that what we're doing with Mission Blue, developing hope spots, engaging champions, engaging communities, developing a network of hope, we're ready to help in any way we can to, I'm so sorry. I know better. Oh, I'm among those who say, remember, turn off your cell phones. I also have a rooster you've probably been hearing in the background. Turn off your rooster.
It's
You're
okay.
barking dogs.
We're always famous for the, the dog people are much more problematic than the cat people on our team because they make a lot more noise. But
We have both.
Yes.
But thank you for inviting me to be here, a part of the action, and count on me to help in any way that I can.
You know, the struggle just continues. So thank you, Sylvia. I mean, I think, the whole team here, we've got 75 partner organizations in this Healthy Reefs initiative. So you've met a few of us, and behind us, there are just tons of groups that are just, their whole lives are spent working and struggling to keep this system alive. But I think it's like you said, it's like, we keep doing it, and then you just have to be prepared to do it again. As you were speaking, I had that song in my head came up about, I get knocked down, but I get up again. I don't know if you know it. That's exactly what we do. You can knock me down. And unfortunately, our report card this time is a little bit, we took another knockdown, but we're going to get back up again. I mean, we know what we need to do. It's just, and we have done these good things, and we've got these bright hope spots, but we need to amplify that. That has to be trickled across a much wider seascape. We can't just do it in these tiny pieces. We need to do it everywhere. We need to amplify, because our pace has been, we've been doing great things, but the implementation, the pace is too slow, because the threats are coming at us faster and faster. And with this stony coral tissue loss disease, ongoing bleaching, climate change, but our corals are hanging in there so far. But fish, we're not doing enough for the fish. We have not gotten, we've got a lot of great protected areas, but as we've gotten stricter with our definitions of what is real protection, we see it's kind of like the emperor's coat, not entirely there. It's like, oh, okay, so those protected areas, you're still fishing. And yeah, even if it's recreational or it's subsistence, it's still fishing. And so we've done a new analysis that's not, we don't have as much in full protection as we thought we did, because we're being stricter now with that actual terminology. And so we're supporting the whole 30 by 30 with highly protected, but we want to know that we get our 20 fully protected, at least as a minimum, but we're down below 2, 3 now.
Every spoonful of ocean that is fully protected is 1,000 times more important than those that still allow the extraction of elements of the system.
Yeah.
It's all connected, and we are so good at breaking those connections. We're just beginning to understand how closely connected everything is. That taking tons, measuring wildlife by the ton, the biggest wildlife trade on the planet is called seafood. It should be sea life, and we need to address it, understanding the consequences. Beginning to understand that old growth forests have a magnified value because they have the elements that have been acquired over millions, billions of years. Really, they're intact. It's a distillation of all preceding interactions, but those places are being stripped away. The forestry practices, when you're only looking at board feet of lumber, have destroyed that network. In the ocean, looking at tons of ocean wildlife that you can extract for market is doing the same thing to ocean systems, breaking those links, destroying the knowledge, burning the library of life and knowledge. Everything that you can do to safeguard the intact systems, find those places, even places that don't look as if they are all that important. Seagrass meadows that have a long history, even, open spaces that I look at the deep sea mining issue as with terror, because those systems have been developing over hundreds of millions of years, and we're about to bite into them for the very first time. But we've done that now with coral reefs. Any place that that we can focus energy and stir up support, we need to do that and restore what we can.
And that's what, we're trying to focus on now, is like how to, we do know these places and we do know where we want to push for more protection, but it's getting that political will. And, you know, we are not always the ones that are the best at mobilizing the people power that then mobilizes the political power. Or you can skip a step and maybe go straight to the political power. I don't know. You've had a lot of success, your name recognition and just the power of your persona. We need you to help us as we get our next level of plan together to like encourage the political powers that be to do the right thing. And I think the Belize Blue Bond is a good step because that, you know, yeah, the country has committed to do this, so that can be a hopefully a quick win. But I don't know.
We need to shift the dynamic. Presently, only 3%, less than 3% is highly or fully protected.
Yeah.
We need to just shift the dynamic. 30% by 2030 seems like a big reach, but it's not really enough to achieve planetary stability. But it's a good start.
Yes.
So I'm with you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate your time. I know you're extremely busy. I'm glad to hear you're headed down into somewhere down into Mesoamerica. And I hope you have a very safe trip. Please stay safe. We need you.
True, all of you. Right back at you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. We have one question from the public. I don't know if we have time.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It was an honor to have you in our meeting. So Christina is asking, how will you send a message to those who insist on massively developing sites like Cozumel without thinking about the impact on the reef?
I wish I had a straight answer, but if you can do what you can to speak for the reef, to speak for the ocean, you know, it seems like just that you couldn't make a difference by writing a publishable letter in the news. I would say, among other things, try to get the voices of the kids engaged, because sometimes those who want to destroy or take from a natural system are not moved by science. They aren't moved by the conservation community, but sometimes the kids, a letter signed by, I don't know, kids who say, what are you doing to my home? What are you doing to my world? It can reach the minds and hearts of even the most gnarly politician or developer. That's not necessarily going to work, but try to be creative in ways. I know you are already, because you're asking the question, what can we do? What can anybody do? Don't let them get away with it. Expose the damage. They may not, you like to think that maybe they don't know. Here we go again. Sure. Right. And there's good news in Cozumel, but there's also some not so good news. It's true everywhere, that try to celebrate those who are on the right track and expose those who, either through ignorance or arrogance, are just running over everybody else. I see that with the large-scale industrial fishing interests. They just don't seem to get it. It's all about money. And what you're talking about is similarly not looking at the right value. So keep on keeping on. And as Melanie says, don't give up.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Sylvia. We will let you go on your flight, and yes, be safe. We will keep you in our thoughts and always welcome you to come down. We need to go again to Swan Islands and many other places.
Yeah, thank you very much.